Welcome to The Disappearing Mind, a unique podcast helping you find clarity and support along your dementia journey. Now, join National Dementia Trainer and Coach Dawn Platt for an all-new episode.
Hello and welcome back to the Disappearing Mind podcast. It's your host, Dawn Platt. In our last episode, we began discussing brain health and cognitive reserve, a word that might be new to you. It's your brain's built-in protection. Today, our episode is cognitive reserve in action, activities, daily routines, and engagement strategies that protect the brain at any age. Today, we're going deeper. I'll review advice from a variety of sources, share practical strategies, daily routines, and activities that build cognitive reserve at any age, and how families and caregivers can integrate them into everyday life. Welcome back. Please get a pen and pencil. This is a podcast that I think you're going to want to jot down some of the things I'm going to be sharing. Of course, I'll have resources for you. I've done some research. These are things that I've used, that I've applied, but there's so much new research out there that were not available in my early career. I'm excited about this, and I wanted to do a podcast to share some of this information with you that's now readily available and that you can look into for yourself or your loved one. There's no better time to pay attention to our health, specifically our brain health. Today, like no time in history, we're hearing about new research, and people in general and of all ages are interested in becoming cognitively healthy. Many of us have been personally impacted by having a family member or friend who's been diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease or related dementia. We often do not think of brain health when we're talking about older adults or when addressing other aging issues and encouraging healthy eating and exercise, but we should. Maintaining one's cognitive abilities is an integral part of quality of life and independence. We know more about it now than we ever have, and there are great opportunities for us as individuals, ordinary people, to tap in to some of this new evidence that's available to us. Great progress has been made over the past 2 decades regarding our understanding of maintaining a healthy brain and what cognitive aging really is in the absence of disease. It wasn't long ago that we widely believed that there was no mechanism to repair the brain and that new neurons could not be generated or the synaptic integrity of our brain altered. The accepted thinking was that a fixed number of neurons, which is brain cells, were established early in life and would remain over the lifetime, and that new brain cells were not common, but the death of brain cells were common. We now know that the number of neurons remains relatively stable as we age, and that the brain has the capacity and does replace those neurons throughout our life. There was very little understanding of the relationship between brain structure and function, and discussions regarding things like neurogenesis, neuroplasticity, and cognitive reserve were non-existent in most literature. Even when I graduated from college, it was rare. I did not know much about that. It wasn't the focus of what we were learning. But what is cognitive reserve? Why am I talking about it on the podcast today? Well, before I jump into the activities that are recommended and what you could do and take from the podcast today, let's quickly revisit cognitive reserve. Think of it as your brain's emergency fund. The more reserve you build through mental, social, and physical engagement over your life, the better your brain can compensate for age-related changes or disease. Cognitive reserve is the brain's ability to remain resilient and maintain cognitive function despite age-related changes or disease. It represents the brain's capacity to improvise and find alternate ways to get a job done, allowing an individual to cope with changes even when brain pathology is present. Factors like education, occupational complexity, and mentally stimulating hobbies contribute to building that cognitive reserve. Let's talk about the brain's adaptability and efficiency. Rather than a physical structure like brain size, known as brain reserve, cognitive reserve refers to the brain's dynamic ability to use existing networks more efficiently or to recruit alternate networks and strategies to compensate for damage. It is often described as the brain's software function rather than hardware structure. Research from Harvard and Age UK shows that people who stay mentally active, socially connected, and physically engaged experience slower cognitive decline and better quality of life, even if they have underlying brain changes. That's exciting news. The brain ages just like other parts of the body. The brain is responsible for our cognition, a term that describes mental functions, including our memory, decision-making, processing speed, and learning. As the brain ages, these functions may change, a process that's called cognitive aging. Cognitive aging is not a disease. It's not the same as Alzheimer's disease or other types of dementia. Cognitive aging is natural, a lifelong process that occurs in every individual. We all age, and the brain is no different. Cognitive aging is different for every individual. Some individuals may experience few effects, where others may undergo changes that can affect cognitive abilities needed to perform daily tasks, such as paying bills, driving, or following recipes. Some cognitive functions improve with age. Wisdom and knowledge often increase with age, and older adults report greater levels of happiness and satisfaction than their younger counterparts. There are steps that people can take to protect their cognitive health, and thus the podcast today. Although aging is inevitable, it is possible to promote and support cognitive health and adapt to age-related changes in cognitive function. Remaining engaged in meaningful and purposeful activities, even after a dementia diagnosis, can have significant impact on both the pace and the depth of decline that you suffer, helping preserve abilities longer, support emotional well-being, and maintain a sense of identity and connection. There are several recommendations, some that I'm going to repeat on this podcast, but I think that they're that important, that are recommended daily routines that can help you support your brain health. Cognitive reserve or cognitive health isn't built overnight. It develops gradually over years through consistent and meaningful engagement in life. Every time we challenge our brain by learning something new, problem solving, staying socially connected, or remaining physically active, we actually strengthen the brain's ability to adapt, compensate, and work around areas of damage. This means that even small daily habits like reading, walking with a friend, practicing a hobby, or engaging in conversation can contribute to building and sustaining that cognitive reserve. Over time, these experiences create a richer network of neural pathways, can help protect cognitive function and support resilience even when the brain faces illness or injury. Here are some cognitive wellness tips as recommended by the National Institute on Aging and the Alzheimer's Association. I've talked about these before in my previous podcast, but they're so worth repeating. when you're focusing on brain health. I want to repeat them. I'm not going to go into the depth. Listen to the previous podcast in order to get them, but these are critical considerations for you, my listener, who are looking to preserve your brain health or caring for someone who's having cognitive decline. Those key strategies as recommended by these organizations are physical activity, nutrition, mental stimulation, social connection, and sleep, good sleep and stress management. Cardiovascular health, managing risk factors in your health that you already have. These are evidence-based. These are highly recommended, and there's tons of information about this online or through those two organizations. I recommend highly that you focus on those areas. There are other recommended activities really recommended throughout and across life stages as we age. I added those today because I want to make the point that research is showing that this begins at an early stage in life. So it's not just as we get older. It's not just when we decline. It's not just when we're diagnosed. This is throughout life. And these recommendations, again, can be critical if you are focusing on your brain health today. In the early stage and middle stages of life or age, learning new skills or hobbies at any stage in life can be supportive. Maintaining those social networks, exercising regularly, that's early stage. We want to start with those habits, build those habits. In the middle stage or midlife, challenging our brain with complex tasks. We want to challenge ourselves, learning new things, doing things that are a little bit more difficult than we've done them before. Prioritizing, again, emotional and social connections are a strong way to build our brain health, including stress reduction practices, whether it's mindfulness or meditation. Whatever that is, incorporating those into our life and recognizing that stress is a concern when it comes to our physical health, but it's certainly a concern when it comes to our cognitive and brain health. And then in later stage, older adults, simplified cognitive games, adding just a few of those can be very beneficial. Music, art, reminiscence therapy, gentle physical activity, and social engagement. The key here is throughout early, middle, and later stage is to meet individuals where they are and ensuring the activities are enjoyable, not stressful, but they're stretching you just a little bit. That's going to be important when you're working on your brain health. Let's break it down a little bit more. Here's a simple way that I found through my research to start now at any age. In the morning, gentle stretches or a short walk. Everybody knows if you get out and take that short walk, it really changes your day. A mindful eating pattern, whether it's breakfast, consider that Mediterranean or mindful diet, fatty fish, healthy fats, incorporating vegetables, low carb way of eating, cutting out refined foods, processed foods, and sugar, and mental stimulation. Stimulating your mind, reading articles online, doing crossword, learning a new word, all of those things are important. Afternoon suggestions are that social connection again. Call a friend or join a community group, take a walk in the park with that physical activity, balance, gardening, or dancing, really important. And then evening suggestions are kind of a reflective practice of journaling, gratitude exercise, or storytelling. All of those things can be very beneficial to brain health. And then, of course, cognitive games, strategy games, apps designed to challenge your memory, puzzles, all of those things can really be helpful. Integrating activities into daily routines, caregivers, naturally, rather than as a checklist. For example, folding laundry, turn folding laundry into a memory game or encourage conversation during meal times. Those are ways that you can incorporate naturally some of these things into your routines. There's some very specific things that I've gone over and I want to highlight that do build cognitive reserve. Let's break them down into 3 categories. The cognitive activities: puzzles, crosswords, Sudoku, learning a new language or instrument, or reading and discussing books. These are cognitive activities that build brain health. That social engagement we've talked about, hobbies, group hobbies, volunteering, clubs, weekly calls, video chats, friends and family gathering, really, really important. And then that physical activity as the third: the walking, yoga, tai chi, dancing to favorite music, strengthening exercise, balance, endurance, all of those things, stretching, all of those things are recommended to incorporate into our daily brain health routines. As a caregiver, it can feel overwhelming to keep any routine and activity going while caring for someone with Alzheimer's disease or related dementia, and I definitely recommend that. Here's some practical tips for caregivers that I want to talk about, and picking up 1 or 2 are going to make a difference. But many of you report that just the mere act of caregiving can feel daunting at times. And we at the podcast understand that. But there's some practical tips that you might find helpful. Adapting a few of these things can really make a difference. So start small. Okay. Pick 1 daily routine or activity from the list that I've given you. Modify it if you need to for the person you're talking about. Don't make it overwhelming. Make it enjoyable. Choose activities the person loves to increase their engagement or that they enjoy. Be flexible. Some days will be better than others, and that's okay. You may not be able to do it every day, but don't give up. Don't give up. Keep trying. Celebrate your successes. Recognize effort, not perfection. Even small, consistent engagement can be meaningful, have an impact on your cognitive reserve and their cognitive reserve and their quality of life. I will tell you from personal testimony, not only with my own mother, but with my clients over the years, I have seen these tips make all the difference in the world for people who have dementia that are walking the journey. They still passed away. We all will do that at some point. However, I want to say up to the last week of my mother's life, I continued with routine. I continued with walking her. I continued with reminiscent and other type activities to keep her as sharp as possible. And I will never regret that. I know that I was able to keep my mom at the highest functioning level she could be. And although she passed and although she declined, I don't know what it would have looked like had I not done those things. And I'm grateful that I did. And that's why I'm sharing this with you. It really isn't about just the cure. It's about quality of life. It's about keeping them at their best when they can't not initiate these things on their own. You can do that with these little steps, these practical steps that I've given you. So to wrap up today, talking about brain health and cognitive reserve, it's a lifelong investment in brain health. Through mental, social, and physical activities, we can slow cognitive decline in our own life, maintain as much independence as possible, and improve quality of life. Your action step this week is to choose one activity to try with yourself or your loved one. It can be a short walk. It can be a memory game, a brain puzzle, or it can be a social call. Keep it simple and make it consistent. Thank you for joining me for another episode of the Disappearing Mind podcast. There's so much information available out there, both here on the podcast and online, to help guide you. Remember, even small, simple steps can support cognitive health for you and those that you care for. Keep learning, keep exploring, and know that you're not alone on this journey. I'll see you in the next episode, and until I do, this is Dawn Platt. Make it a memorable day.
Thank you for joining us for the Disappearing Mind podcast. We hope it's helped you find clarity and support along your journey. Be sure to subscribe to never miss an episode, visit our website to suggest future topics, and share the podcast with friends and family.